What's up, everyone? Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button and that notification button for more updates, movie reviews, as well as short films that I do over time and hopefully will continue to do. And let's get straight to it. The Fantastic Four, The First Steps, movie, spoiler, review, and I really liked it a lot. I enjoyed it. It was a blast. Maybe deserved 20 minutes more, but overall, it's my favorite Fantastic Four film. I did like the Chris Evans, Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, and Lone Grufford. I think I said his name right, Lone Ian or Lone Grufford. Grud Grufford. He was Mr. Fantastic. I like those first two films. The only gripes I had with those first two films, the first one being Doctor Doom, the actor Julian McMahon, rest in peace. He was cool. I just didn't like much of the portrayal, and it's not much his fault as much as it is the writing. And as far as the Rise of the Silver Surfer, which I thought was better than the first one, my only problem with that was Galactus being a cloud and you don't really see him. I remember them saying that if they did a third movie, that eventually he would show his true form. But it's like, don't do that later in the like into the series. If you're gonna show Galactus, show him right away. Why do a cloud? Or if you're gonna introduce him like he's surrounded by this cloud, at least have him eventually appear throughout the film. And I think that's kind of what destroyed the movie itself was the Cloud Galactus. Because overall the film was cool. I thought it was fun. Silver Surfer was great. Doctor Doom was even better this time around, and it was Galactus, Cloud Galactus, and that's pretty much what I guess doomed the movie because they were going to do a third one and maybe even a spin-off with Silver Surfer, and they just decided to recast and reboot the franchise, and we got Fantastic Four, which obviously was a letdown. The one with Michael B. Jordan and Miles Teller and Kate Mara and 50 other actors' name. I didn't mind the cast, but it was a little too darker, and it just I just didn't like the way the story. I didn't like how Doom was in that. Like he was even worse there. Toby Cabell, he's a great actor, but it was just horrible. And now we have finally, the Fantastic Four in the MCU because now that Disney Marvel owns them back, we're able to get them. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get them right away, so that's why they went the route with the multiverse. So to introduce them, and with the multiverse, they're in another universe. They're able to come into the current timeline or universe or universes because that's supposed to be like a whole universal or multiverse thing. But that was the best way they can introduce them, not have them like they just got their powers because they're supposed to be the first family, and then they later on get their powers while everyone else got their abilities or they're eventually known as heroes and stuff. So that's the route they went with, and I think it's fine. I think it's cool. I like time travel. I like multiverse stuff. I've said it many times. I know the Marvel, the MCU has hit and misses this phase or the last phase because I believe we're in a new phase now with the Fantastic Four, First Steps, and it's been a miss. They haven't handled the multiverse as best as they could have. I like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I thought they had an opportunity to do something so much more there, and they didn't. But I still like the film. Again, I like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Not so much, but I like it enough. I know people hate on that movie, and their reasons are valid. I'm not so much in agreement with their reasons, but doesn't mean it's not valid. But I like the film, and I was a fan of Kang. I knew Kang was coming. I called it an Endgame when Tony did the time travel. Like I know about comics, I know about Kang and time. So when he mentioned that line, when you mess with time, it tends to mess with me back. You might have thought, well, within that film, that's what the problem was going to be when Thanos, obviously time traveled. The other Thanos, the one that they battled, you probably would have been like, yeah, that's the one. But I felt like Kang was coming anyway, and that was a way of, that was telling us without telling us. And we did get Kang, but then unfortunately, Jonathan Majors, that whole issue, they decided to do away with that instead of recasting, and now they're giving us Doom. And it just seems rushed and just like you could. I guess they want to just reboot the franchise eventually, so they're like, you know what, we're gonna just jump into Doom. Kang, I was expecting more. I did see Loki season 2, and they kind of shut that down, which I guess is better, than nothing. with the whole Kang situation, but now we're getting Doom, and there's a whole thing with that because it's Robert Downey Jr., as you know, if you've been following, and I have theories as to why it's going to. It could be a variant, and it just happens to be looking like Tony, and it's Victor Von Doom. Or there's other theories that Doom is took Tony Stark's body from the current MCU timeline that we know, where he died, and he's taken over, like the dream walking or whatever from Multiverse of Madness that Wanda did. There's so many theories, but I hope it's not that. I would rather it be a variant, just looks like Tony, and it's Victor Von Doom. Or another theory in Fantastic Four where you saw the spoilers where Doctor Doom has Franklin Richards and he's touching his face. Maybe the Doom that is in that universe, his face was messed up, and because he's able to, he knows about the multiverse and all that, he wants to take over and utilize Tony Stark from the current MCU, like to use the others, and perhaps he had Franklin alter his face to look like Tony Stark to kind of play with the minds of like Spider-Man, Tom Holland's character from the current MCU, not a variant. So I'm thinking something like that maybe, but overall, I mean, let's get straight to the film itself, Fantastic Four, First Steps. I enjoyed it a lot. It was great. The cast was great. A lot of people hate on Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. Oh, he doesn't have a mustache or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if you've seen some of the comics, he does have a full beard. So a mustache or a little bit of a beard isn't that far-fetched. And I thought he did a great job. Sue Storm, Vanessa Kirby was great. I'm not going to compare her to Jessica Alba. I think they were just two different versions, but I do like both. But I feel like Vanessa, as far as, for me, it was a little bit more mature. But again, I'm not comparing. I like them both. Not Michael Chiklis. He was the Thing in the original. Well, in the Tim Story, I believe that was the director, that version. But Eben Moss Baccarat, I don't remember his last name, but Eben Moss, he played the Thing. He was cool, and Johnny Storm, Joseph Quinn was awesome. I like Chris Evans as a Human Torch. He's the man as the Human Torch, but Joseph Quinn, he was cool, and I like what they did with him. He looked more like Human Torch as far as the hairstyle and the color, and they were a great cast. I really liked their chemistry, and the film itself was like, we didn't get to have to worry about seeing how they got their powers because we saw it many times. Like the Superman movie, he's already Superman, so I think that's cool. We just get straight into the action and to the story. I did like that we had Mole Man. Whoever thought we'd have Mole Man in the film, and that was pretty cool to see. We got to see Giganto, and that was like, again, who I never thought we'd see any of these characters in the MCU. Not that it wasn't possible and it didn't make sense, but just I didn't think they would go with these characters, even though they were really lightly used and like montage, but it was still cool. And well, Momo did a little bit more from the montage, but it was just nice to see the Fantastic Four's other villains other than Doom. We didn't get Doom here. We just got him in the post-credit scenes. We finally got a real Galactus and the Shala Ball version of Silver Surfer, which is not a gender swap. It's actual comic character, which is actually Norrin Radd Silver Surfer, the original Silver Surfer's wife, I guess, or girlfriend. And this version we get, it's a different universe. We got Shala Ball, and she was great. The actress name, she escapes me. I just had it, but she was awesome. And I like what they did with them. I like how Galactus. People complain that he doesn't do much but walk around and slap things and whatever. It's just like not much of a difference from what I've seen in video games or shows where he can. People say he's not tall enough. He's like he can change his height. Like he didn't need to be such a giant on Earth. But I like what they were able to do. Sue Storm was able to hold him back to try to push him into the portal thing for the transport him elsewhere. She's from right. I think she's the strongest Fantastic Four hero, and it's not far fetched that she was able to hold him back. They're like, oh, but it's she's invisible and force field, but I'm like, her powers are cosmic. Galactus is a being of cosmic too, so it's not far fetched that she was able to hold him back. Why couldn't he fight against it, or why didn't he fight against it? I don't know. Story, it's just why they needed to kind of have Galactus get pushed into the portal, where obviously Silver Surfer stops Human Torch from sacrificing himself to push her and Galactus into the portal herself. So I thought it was cool, and then we got the Franklin Richards thing, the baby, which at first I was like, it's too soon. We just got them. Why we need to have the baby? But of course, it's fine. It's different, and I'm sure the baby Franklin Richards was very powerful. Will be useful for what they need to do for Doomsday and Secret Wars. So I liked the story. I thought the pacing was fine. I just would have liked 20 minutes more of action, but I think what was the heart of the film was the interaction with all of them, the dialogue, the emotion, and that's what I liked more of it. I think again it lacked a little bit of action from the other films. I'm not even counting the travesty of Josh Trank's film because I don't remember much of it. But like I think it could have done a little bit more action. But other than that, I really don't have a problem with it. I like the visuals. I like the whole chase scene when Silver Surfer is chasing them on the ship and they're in the black hole. Like that whole segment again. Galactus. His presence was cool, and finally we got a Galactus. Like I really enjoy Fantastic Four. This year has been great. Superman was awesome. Fantastic Four was awesome. I can't complain with those two films. I'm looking forward to Spider-Man Brand New Day coming out. I know the Spider-Man films with Tom Holland, as much as I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, I haven't been so into those films. They're cool, but I just haven't really been into them. But I'm hoping Brand New Day really does its thing. Punisher's in it, Hulk is in it, so I'm hoping that'll be great. I believe that film, and then it's Doomsday. I don't think it's Doomsday and Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man then Doomsday. But I mean, there's just so many characters like Shang-Chi that I'm just like, we didn't get a sequel that was supposed to come out, but we're gonna see him in Doomsday first instead of getting a Shang-Chi sequel, which is like it's been too long. I think the TV series, which was great to expand the universe, kind of just destroyed a lot of what they were building because they just did too much. I'm a fan of all the shows. I don't have a problem with most of them or all of them. I may dislike certain things, but I'm a fan of Secret Invasion. I will say it. I'm a fan of Secret Invasion. I thought it was cool. A little boring, not the best of the shows that we've gotten, but I enjoyed it. I liked Miss Marvel, Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier was fun. WandaVision, I liked the shows. I just think that a lot of it was unnecessary if they're not doing anything else with these characters, especially if it's supposed to be this multiverse thing, and what's going on with that? How are they interacting with the multiverse? What are you showing us? The What If series was fun, but at the end of the day, it was like, what was leading up to any of that? You didn't do anything, so I just feel like they wasted money and time when they could have tried to establish better writing or so for other films like Thor 4, which I don't like. The Marvels I like better than Captain Marvel. I'm a fan of the Marvels, so I think it's great what we've got with Thunderbolts so far, which we also got Thunderbolts this year, which I really enjoyed, and now we got Fantastic Four, which I enjoyed. I think the films since then is I would say since Guardians 3, because Guardians 3 was great. From Guardians 3 on, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, I think we're on the right path of good films. It's just a matter of, are they gonna make money? Are people going to the theaters? Do they care? Because at the end of the day, to make these films, they need to make money. So just because they don't make money doesn't necessarily mean they're bad films. It's just the idea of that they need to make money. But overall, I enjoyed the films. I thought Fantastic Four First Steps is a must-watch. I give it 2 thumbs up. Check it out if you haven't. I really don't have any other problems with the film itself. Just that maybe it could have done 20 more minutes of action. But other than that, I enjoyed it. Check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, later.